The military said occupation forces bombed Hamas targets with warplanes in the Gaza Strip early on Wednesday in response to Palestinians in the enclave launching fire balloons towards the occupied territories. There were no reports of casualties in the strikes that Israel's military said targeted underground infrastructure belonging to Hamas, the group that rules Gaza. Hamas has been trying to pressure Israel to ease restrictions on Gaza and allow more investment, in part by letting Palestinians launch helium balloons carrying incendiary material that have torched tracts of southern Israeli farmland in recent weeks. Lebanon Wednesday rejected an Israeli call to reform a UN peacekeeping force patrolling the border between the two countries days before a UN Security Council vote to renew its mandate. Lebanon and Israel are still technically at war, and the United Nations force UNIFIL is tasked with monitoring a cessation of hostilities between the two sides. Lebanon's caretaker foreign minister Charbel Wahbi separately received the ambassadors of the council's 5 permanent members ahead of Friday's vote and handed them a memorandum of stressing that Lebanon is attached to renewing the UNIFIL mission without modifying its mandate or its numbers. The United Nations has blocked a controversial bid by the United States to reimpose international sanctions on Iran, with the Security Council saying it could not proceed with the disputed move. The Indonesian ambassador said the presidency of the Council, assumed in August by Indonesia, is not in a position to take further action on Washington's request. In a video conference on the Middle East, he cited the lack of consensus in the UN's highest body on the U.S. strategy as the main reason. Turkish Foreign Minister said on Wednesday Turkey is ready to discuss the Eastern Mediterranean issue with all countries in the region with the exception of the Greek Cypriot administration, which it does not recognize, he said, adding that there should not be any preconditions. The minister warned Greece against miscalculation in the Eastern Mediterranean region. He stated at a joint news conference with his German counterpart in the capital Ankara, Turkey is ready to do whatever it deems necessary to protect its legitimate interests in the region. The escalation in the region stemmed from the Greek Cypriot approach, not Turkey's, minister said, citing as an evidence the ongoing Greek military exercises in the region. State media reported on Wednesday China said a U.S. spy plane entered a no-fly zone used by the Chinese military for 5 fire drills, branding it an act of provocation. The Chinese Defense Ministry spokesman said the U-2 recognized jet's flight over an area in northern China violated safety rules between the two nations. Beijing's anger comes as U.S. and Chinese relations have deteriorated to historic lows, with confrontations simmering on trade, military, and political matters. On the military front, U.S. naval forces regularly conduct operations near Taiwan and in the South China Sea, effectively challenging China's territorial claims. The University of Cambridge said Wednesday it's aiming to start clinical trials of its possible coronavirus vaccine in the autumn after it received £1.9 million in funding from the British government. The scientists behind the vaccine said their approach, which uses genetic sequences of all known coronaviruses to hone the immune response, could help avoid the adverse effects of a hyperinflammatory immune response. The laboratory had said ultimately the aim is to make a vaccine that will not only protect from SARS but also other related coronaviruses that may spill over from animals to humans. Australia's Victoria state recorded its second most deadly day of the coronavirus pandemic on Wednesday with 24 deaths, although fewer new infections were detected at the halfway mark of a strict 6-week lockdown. The southeastern state detected 149 new cases compared with 148 reported on Tuesday, while down on the peak of more than 700 daily cases on August 5th. The record daily death toll was 25 reported last week. Victoria's government wants to extend a state of emergency by another year to combat the spread of the virus, allowing it to prolong or reimpose lockdowns over that period. The move has alarmed critics of the state government, including members of the federal cabinet, who said an extended state of emergency is undemocratic. South Korea has ordered doctors in the Seoul area to return to work as they began a 3-day strike in protest of several government proposals, including one to boost the number of doctors to deal with health crises such as the coronavirus. Trainee doctors have been staging ongoing walkouts, and thousands of additional doctors were due to stage a 3-day strike starting on Wednesday. These strikes come as South Korea battles one of its worst outbreaks of the coronavirus, with 320 new cases reported in the 24 hours to midnight, the latest in more than a week and a half of triple-digit increases. According to news reports, the walkouts on Wednesday forced South Korea's 5 major general hospitals to limit their hours and delay scheduled surgeries. It will be mandatory for pupils to wear face masks in communal areas of secondary schools in England in places with local lockdowns, Britain's education minister said on Wednesday after a government U-turn on enforcing their use. Ministers had ruled out the need for pupils to wear masks in corridors despite updated advice from the World Health Organization, but the government has now said face coverings should be worn in schools and places facing restrictions to curb the spread of COVID-19. Head teachers in other areas will also have the discretion to recommend using masks in their schools for students aged between 11 and 18. 3 people were shot, one of them fatally, as gunfire broke out on the streets of Kenosha, Wisconsin, early on Wednesday on the 3rd straight day of unrest sparked by police shooting of a black man. Social media video posted on Wednesday showed a gun battle among civilians, with several people rushing a man with a long gun who apparently had been knocked to the ground. Kenosha has been rocked by protests since last Sunday when police shot Jacob Blake in the back as he walked away from 2 officers and opened his car door. According to local media, a boat carrying dozens of irregular migrants sunk off a small Greek island in the Aegean Sea. According to Greek media reports, some 80 irregular migrants were on board when the boat sunk off the island of Halki, about 6 kilometers west of Rhodes, near southwestern Turkey. Rhodes' local port authority said diver teams and a helicopter were dispatched to the area and rescue operations were launched. According to officials on Wednesday, at least 30 people have been killed and hundreds of houses destroyed as flash floods caused by torrential rains lashed an Afghan city north of Kabul. The Ministry of Disaster Management said many women and children were among the dead in the city of Charikar, which was hit by heavy rains overnight that caused flash floods. A local government hospital in the province of Parwan confirmed receiving the bodies of 17 people killed in the floods. Hundreds of flights have been cancelled in South Korea, while North Korea's leader has expressed concern about a potential loss of lives and corpses as the country's praise for a typhoon forecast as one of the strongest this year. Demonstrating a maximum wind speed of 162 km per hour, Typhoon Babi was already influencing South Korea's southern resort island of Jeju on Wednesday afternoon, toppling trees, ripping off signboards, and knocking down at least 1 traffic sign. There were no immediate reports of injuries or deaths.